Hi,
And I
Joel.
think we're live. Hey, Rish. It's been a bit of an exercise today to get online.
Yeah, apologies to everyone who's been waiting. We've obviously shown that we are not that technically proficient, but no, we had a bit of a chore getting things online today. But thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks Joel for joining us as well, because he was missing last time we did this.
Yeah, I lost my voice. Just as an aside, I wasn't yelling at people. I just had a sore throat. So Rish, likes to say that I yell a lot, but I actually know that I'm actually very zen most of the time.
So for those of you who've heard the corporate governance rumors at MercuryPay about Joel always losing his temper, I can definitely say they're not true. So that shouldn't stop any of you coming to join us, either as employees or as potential clients. But no, in all seriousness, today's talk is a bit of a strange one in the sense that it is just me and Joel. We deliberately wanted to have a conversation, I guess the two of us, specifically talking about our own views on fintech and beyond payments, which is the initiative that we're launching in 2022 via an event. And just kind of shoot the breeze a bit. People always ask us, well, you've got other people's opinions. Well, what's our opinions on these things? So maybe Joel,
We've got a lot of opinions.
Yeah, maybe you just want to introduce the idea beyond payments, and then we can take it from there.
Sure. So as a fintech ourselves, right? So MercuryPay is a fintech. We've realized that there's a lot of noise about fintech products and services, not just in Malaysia, but in the region. But almost all of that noise is being generated by payments companies, right? Now, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Because payments are such a huge part of our daily lives, right? We all use, payment apps, and we've got our bank cards, and our QR pays and all these things, and it's unfortunate that payments has really sort of tried to crowd that space, right? And so what's happened is that a lot of the other types of fintech products and services that are not payments related, not fully payments related, have actually suffered because consumers can't see them, or consumers can't discover them easily because of all the noise from the payments guys, right? Mm. So that's changing slowly, but it's causing a lot of friction. It's causing a lot of problems for new products and services to enter the market, right? There are a lot of challenges there for them. So what we've decided to do with Beyond Payments is really create an event that brings all these fintech products and services that are, not payments related. So anything except, the payment related ones, and put them all into one place, one event, which is free for consumers to attend, right? Free for everyone to attend, really. And so that anyone, the man on the street, basically, can come in there not knowing anything about what other types of fintech products and services are available to them and how it can help them. And at the end of the event, we want them to leave with a better understanding of how fintech isn't just payments, and it's actually evolved beyond payments, and that there are things out there that can help people to save money, to spend money more wisely, to be able to grow their wealth, right? And that's really the motivation behind Beyond Payments.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think there's been a lot of noise about fintech over the last kind of decade, and it's now become so synonymous with payments that it just, in some categories, it's a bit of a turnoff. It's, well, I just don't want to have another payments discussion. I don't really care about what my wallet's doing, that type of thing. And obviously payments remains a completely integral part of that whole fintech concept, but it's not the only part. And I think one of the things that we learned this the hard way, because we put our name out there as MercuryPay, right? And people automatically came to us and said, well, okay, what payment solutions do you guys have for me? And we were like, well, we do have payment solutions, but we have everything else within that fintech scope. And I think it's quite important that people out there educate themselves that, yeah, fintech can mean a broad range of things. Even, you know, there's fintech on the charitable service, there's fintech within insurance, there's fintech within the healthcare service. There's so many other aspects. And I think one of the things beyond payments will go a really long way to helping is showing people that, you know, we don't just mean payments. We're not just talking about wallets. There is so much more out there. And also, I hope it really lifts people's attitude towards, you know, embracing fintech from a positive standpoint, as opposed to just kind of a remedial and kind of negative standpoint. And I think we can do a really good job with that in the weeks ahead, and obviously when we do the event. And for those fintechs out there who are looking at their market position and looking at, you know, well, how do we advertise? You know, how do we plug ourselves? How do we position ourselves out there so that people see us as a all-encompassing service more than just a payment service, and come to us, because we went through that journey, and you know, we hit some pitfalls as well on the way, but we definitely learned from it. And I think beyond payments will go a long way to helping you go through that.
No, absolutely. And you know, just building on that idea, right? I mean, beyond payments is really, I mean, at its core, what it really is an extension. It's a physical, or I mean, a virtual extension of what MercuryPay is, right? So MercuryPay as an idea, as a concept, is really that one-stop shop, right? That 360-degree view of all your financial products and services all in one place, right? Mm. And having all that data in one place obviously will give you better insights into what you have, what you owe, right? What you can spend. And that in turn leads to people making better financial decisions for themselves, right? So just very simply, that really is the idea behind it. So that's beyond payments is really the, you know, this year, well, next year it's going to be virtual, but you know, hopefully after that it's going to be a physical event, right? So it really is going to be the virtual, the physical extension of the MercuryPay app in people's lives. That's what we're hoping anyway.
Yeah, well, yeah, and just to flesh that out even more so, like for those of you who are like sitting at home now or wherever you are, like think about your financial situation. Like you've probably got multiple bank accounts, multiple credit cards, multiple wallets. You may send money overseas. You may have a fund of funds account. You may have so many different things, your kids' education account, savings account, whatever. And, you know, we are hitting this from this approach of, you know what, really in 2021, 2022, there needs to be a holistic platform or a medium with which you can see all that in one place. Because how can you make strong, robust financial decisions if all your information is kind of compartmentalized? And essentially, how can you make a decision that's going to either give you more money, more savings, whatever, when you know you've got so many moving parts? And in an environment where things are 24/7, 150 miles an hour, it's quite difficult to grasp that. I mean, I'll give you a good example. The other day, I completely forgot about my electricity bill because I just forgot it existed. Right? I forgot to go downstairs and open the letterbox and get the physical bill. But if I had somewhere that was already logging that information and that data was present within my whole financial position, you know, that would be something really, really helpful to me. So that's essentially what MercuryPay is trying to do, right? Going forward, we want people to have that holistic look, and we won't just get there by focusing on payments, right? And we need you guys to tell us, you know, other avenues that we may have missed or other avenues that are particularly pertinent to you. And we want you guys to start thinking about finance as a really helicopter level process. You know, it isn't about different streams. It isn't about individual functional items. It's definitely top down. And hopefully the MercuryPay app goes a long way to kind of achieving that. And I know, Joel, I don't think everyone has heard that story about you and how MercuryPay kind of conceptualized and started. So maybe you can give us a brief, teaser onto that. I know there's going to be a bigger movie about this later on, but give us a bit of a teaser, and maybe people can help understand why we visualize things this way.
Sure. So, you know, back in 2018, when I first started thinking about this, when I first started designing the idea behind MercuryPay, Malaysia, you know, it's a small population, right? We've got, you know, 33 million people. And at the time, in 2018, we had 60 different e-wallets, right? And that was not including all the other ways to pay, right? Credit cards, debit cards, bank accounts, FPX, all those things. And it really didn't make sense to me because I love using these payment products, right? And as you know, Rish, I never have cash, right? Like if we go out somewhere, it's either cashless or someone else is paying. So I never have cash, and so at the time I had, I think it was either 14 or 16 different e-wallet accounts of my own, and that really didn't make sense to me because you have 2 ringgit here, 50 ringgit there, a few cents here, and there wasn't really one place to sort of look at all that cohesively and know, okay, so I have a value of this many ringgit that I can then spend somewhere. And so that's how the idea for MercuryPay actually first came about. It was a very simple payments aggregator where a user would be able to plug in all their favorite ways to pay, and then using one QR code at a shop or a restaurant or whatever, they'd be able to make pick any one of those favorite ways, connected ways to pay, and actually make that payment. That was the idea. It was very simple. It was just that. But as we, 2018 to now, it's been quite a while. It's been 3.5 years since I started this, almost. And we've talked to thousands of consumers and thousands of businesses, and I say hundreds of fintechs over the last few years, and we've realized that there are other gaps, that exist in the marketplace, in the industry, between individuals, between businesses, and between fintechs. And we saw a need to build something that would bridge those gaps for everyone, right? And really make not just a cashless society or cashless ecosystem, but also more of a financially inclusive and financially well-managed ecosystem for each one of these players involved. And we saw that especially in Southeast Asia, there are amazing fintechs coming up with amazing products and services, but it's very difficult for consumers to actually find them. And that's what MercuryPay really has evolved into, I think.
Well, it's interesting because I think, when you don't drill down into the details, it's easy to think that the whole financial landscape and ecosystem is a pretty equal place for everyone. But I think COVID has shown, last year and a half at least, shown us that actually that's not the case. You've got so many people hustling, even though they have funds in various parts, hustling to make ends meet, hustling to pay these bills, hustling to get more insurance, these type of things. And one thing I've seen, especially not being in Southeast Asia as long as you, but when I came back, it was, well, things aren't, there isn't a level playing field here, and merchants in the sticks are treated very much differently to urban merchants, and consumers in the kampong towns are treated very differently to consumers in kind of more socially developed and urbanly developed areas. And to me, that just doesn't make sense, right? If you keep pushing these very niche and I guess specifically positioned fintech products, you're only going to increase that gap and that divide, because you're going to see that the urban areas are probably going to pick up on those products, and the rest of us, or the rest of individuals out there, are probably going to fall behind. And you can see this a lot in Southeast Asia, just because there is still that poverty divide within society in a lot of these countries, and Indonesia is being a really good example. And I think MercuryPay has come into it with the aim of kind of just equalizing the playing field. Why is that good enough for him and her in KL is still not good enough for that person out in Lombok or wherever, right? And I think it's about talking about the inclusivity or the lack of inclusivity, and talking about the ideas that products can actually facilitate its way outwards into the whole population in a more friendly way. And I think one of the jobs we need to do, which we're obviously doing or trying to do, is promote, educate, and align social objectives a bit more fairly and a bit more equally. And we've been on the road of it and talked to a lot of merchants, and they definitely think they're getting the short end of the stick, and a lot of them are, right? So how do we equalize that? How do we bridge those gaps? And hopefully the platform we build does that. I think it will do that. And more importantly, I think it's also just about getting people, end of the day, you can give people as much advice on finance and savings and things as possible, but them being able to enact and translate that into a proper decision is really important. And I think MercuryPay will be really, really strong in that respect, because it allows people to have confidence in making more direct, stronger financial management decisions. And that helps because we're showing them everything, basically everything you own or everything that you host, you basically have on the platform, but you also have access to all the other fintech products and avenues out there, right? So there's no excuse for making a slightly bad decision. There's no excuse for saying, well, I don't have access to that. And hopefully, going into 2022, 2023, more and more people will have access to that.
Absolutely. I think one of the more I wouldn't really say shocking, but the worrying statistics here in Malaysia is the number of people that are in really deep financial debt, right? And we've got a bunch of agencies, right, that are supposed to work with people, with individuals, to help them to actually fix that, right? To help them to make better financial decisions, to help them to come out of that debt. But it's not ideal, right? It's not something that people have, the people in power, the government has actually really taken into account, I feel. Because I found this out the other day, actually, so we've got a agency called AKPK here in Malaysia, right? And if you talk to a lot of people, a lot of them are AKPK customers or AKPK clients, because a lot of people are in bad debt, right? And AKPK's promise is that they will help you to restructure that debt with the financial institutions, and then you pay off a smaller amount every month, and then they will basically channel those funds to each of those financial institutions for you. What I found out the other day really shocked me, though, that AKPK, for the first 3 years or so, it depends on how long you've got, right? But for the first period of your repayment, they actually pay very, very little, or just the interest, to the financial institutions. They don't even pay. Yeah, exactly. And that's because they're actually taking the lion's share for themselves to pay off their own admin costs, right? And that was just insane to me. That was crazy for me to hear. At least all this time, I've actually been of the opinion that AKPK has been helping people, helping Malaysians, but now to actually hear that, right? And I heard it from someone who worked in a bank, so it's probably true. and it really shocked me how many people are going through AKPK in the hope that their debt is going to be resolved, and then end up paying for that several times over. In smaller amounts, sure, but for a longer period of time, and spending actually more money at the end of it than they would if they actually just paid the bank back directly. And I think a lot of this stems from education, right? Financial education, which unfortunately is not something that we really teach young people in this country.
Well, completely, and I think there needs to be a transparent, honest approach to this. I mean, you've got a few groups here. You've got governments who have agendas. You have consumers who essentially should be the mass benefactors of everything. And you've got your merchants and the corporates who get involved from a profit-making perspective. And one of the things I think we've learned really quite categorically was that unless all those groups harmonize and work together in a collaborative approach, everyone is always pushing and pulling in different directions. So I think the government has a big role to play in this. Well, firstly, by saying, you know what, we get it wrong more often than not. So maybe you shouldn't be listening to us. Maybe you should be listening to the MercuryPays and the other companies out there who are actually on, they're in the trenches. They're hearing consumer advice. They're dealing with the actual infrastructure and logistical problems that are going into developing a financial network, and then make decisions on the back of that collaborative exercise. And I'm not surprised by. I mean, it's shocking to hear that example, but I'm not surprised by it in a way, because the governments have never outlaid proper financial agendas. They don't. It changes according to party. It changes according to, the amount of budget they have likely to invest in that. It changes according to regulation, things like that. And I think a more enterprise, collaborative approach will be much more beneficial to everyone. And we've seen that in our work. Instead of seeing MercuryPay as a competitor or as an entity that's going to face a lot of opposition and etc. If we go into that as a more collaborative, partner-based approach, which we're doing, we actually get a lot further down the line. And I think that's the future of fintech that I see in places like Malaysia and Singapore showing it at the moment. The ecosystem is only going to grow and grow in an inclusive and effective way if everyone gets on the boat and tries to push in the same direction. As soon as people start doing their own things and governments, in essence, effectively support that, it's gonna go downfall. So I mean, a pretty shocking example you gave, and I mean, I hope they've taken steps to rectify that.
I don't know, this is. I honestly didn't know what to say to the guy, because I went into that conversation, fully thinking that AKPK was there to really champion what people need, right, and to help them figure out their debt. And when he told me this, I honestly didn't know how to continue that conversation. It was very shocking to hear him say that, and I looked it up, and it's in some very, very fine print on the AKPK documents. So,
well, I think it's also consumers by default have a level of trust in the institutions that are supposed to be governing them and helping them, and sometimes it works well, sometimes it just doesn't. And I think the education, like you mentioned, the education aspect of this is important. You have to have the self-confidence and the data to be able to make your own robust financial decisions. You can't rely on these big government corporations or private corporations to make those decisions for you. And I'm always pro data. I just think have as much visibility and transparency on everything, every aspect of your life, financial or otherwise, to make the most sane and sensible decision available, and take the power out of these kind of guiding figures that we have. I see it all the time on YouTube these days. Someone telling me, "Oh, there's some advice about how to invest." Go into cryptos, go into that, and it's sometimes it's good, but most of the time it's just complete rubbish. And it's that that cattle herd mentality where we're being led into certain directions. And in finances, it's really easy to do that, because as long as you convince someone that they're going to have X amount more by doing what you've asked them to do, they completely buy into it. But they don't necessarily know that journey, how to navigate that journey. They don't necessarily know the intricacies of it. And I think self-education is going to be a big part of that, and that's one of the things that we're pushing forward.
Absolutely. I think there are a number of fintechs, again, that are sort of leading the way on this, and really, really getting the message out there, really helping people understand what it takes, from using a data-driven approach, what it really takes to make money grow, right? And I think they're doing a really good job, but unfortunately, they haven't become mainstream enough. Not yet, anyway.
Yeah, completely. And I don't think they've been given the backing at certain government levels or other entrepreneurial levels to get the traction that they need. And I think making money is an important thing. Obviously, when you set up an enterprise, that's one of the things you think about. But it's also about the social factors that can benefit as well, that will help you make money in the long term anyway, right? So yeah, look, I think I think we kind of know what we want to do. I think the other interesting fact, and beyond payments is really linked to this, is this understanding that you do have control of your own finances, right? I mean, one of the things that I learned pretty late in life, and I wish I'd learned it earlier, was that I kind of just let my finances take care of themselves, right? I didn't do anything with them. I didn't necessarily put them in the right buckets when I should have done. And it's not about following advice. It's also about having visibility to the products that help me allow me to do those things. And only in the last couple of years have I thought about, what, am I looking at the right products? Am I looking at the right companies to help me guide me through that journey? Am I parking my money in the right boats or not? And I think beyond payments will be quite a good introduction to a lot of people to see that they can actually do a lot more with their money in a much more effective and easy way, really. It's not, financial management is not that difficult a task. You don't need to know how markets work necessarily. You don't need to know interest rate movements. You don't necessarily need to know the tech side of things. And our platform, and I think a lot of the partners that we're engaging with, will help push that message across.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the hope, right? We really hope that the people who come to Beyond Payments, who attend it, will leave with a much better understanding about how they can manage their money better, manage their finances better, and that really is the hope. Yeah. So we're about 26 minutes into this live stream, and I think we're going to be wrapping up pretty soon. If anyone has any questions, please send them over the chat, and we will respond to them. Anything that you want to know about, our thoughts on the current status of fintech or the current status of finance, how you can save money, how you can spend money, anything you guys want to know about on Beyond Payments itself, just feel free to send those questions in, and we will take them. The other thing that I wanted to sort of go over is, for the people watching today, thank you so much for taking the time and actually coming out and looking at this, watching us talk for half an hour about things that are important to us. And I think for you guys, I'd like to do like a little sneak peek or a little preview about something that's coming up, that's being launched very soon. Next Monday morning, if you guys follow follow us on social media. And I mean, you should really follow us on social media. We're very funny. So you should really follow MercuryPay on social media. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube and Instagram. There is going to be a big announcement coming on Monday morning that will really change how people see MercuryPay, and how really the future of what it is we're trying to do is going to be laid out. It's going to be very exciting. I am going to give you a small sneak peek, if you just bear with me 1 second.
Make sure it's kid friendly.
Hold on, I just need to log in here real quick. Log me out.
And this is a big, just it's going to be a big change for you guys and how you view us. It's also a massive change in how we view ourselves as well. We're pivoting on a lot of products at the moment, and this is going to take us hugely forward.
Here we go. Let me just share that screen. Oh, okay. I guess I can't share the screen. But what I can do.
I think I think I allowed you to share screen. Try again.
There we go. Thank you. this is a really, really quick sneak peek. I'm going to turn it off in a second. If you guys can see, this is what we've been working on. And this is something that's going to be launched on Monday. And it's just a special preview for the guys who have actually spent the time to be a part of this conversation with us. All right. So back to our regular programming, I guess.
There's the plug for the day. So look, I think Joel's made a really good point, though. We're on the verge of doing something pretty great. I think we all believe that, and your support is massively necessary because that's where we get the feedback from. That's, you guys are in the trenches, like I said earlier, and we need your support. We're going to be launching a few additional services soon as well, so more on that to come. And the other thing I'd say to you guys, as our voice, as our sounding board, tell us what else you want us to talk about on Beyond Payments. I think that'll be really helpful. Joel and I know a lot of people out there who some of whom have really awful opinions, but some of whom have really good opinions as well. And over the next few months, we're going to definitely be bringing them on the show. Widening the discussion. It's not specific to payments, so like we said, and it's definitely not specific to Malaysia. So if there's anything out there that you want us to touch on or cover, please do. Every age, gender, race is welcome. We know everyone has their own demographical problems that they're going through. So tell us about it, and we'll be your sounding board as well.
So just to wrap up, we have a very special guest 2 weeks from now in our next Beyond Payment session. He comes from the remittances industry. It's something that's really taken off. He works in a company that's really taken off in the last few years, and we're going to be very happy to have him. Stay tuned. Again, subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to our social media pages, and we're going to be putting up a post with his bio and all that good stuff, so you can read about it very soon, in the next few days. So again, like and subscribe to this channel. That's very important. We need that.
Yep. And tell your friends and your girlfriends and boyfriends and grandparents and everyone to subscribe. We will be giving free gifts away eventually, and you won't have a chance to win them unless you subscribe or like. So,
especially your grandparents. Grandparents love us.
And for those of you who are wondering what a free gift is, I won't say much, but Apple are having an event soon, so we may or may not be doing something. Okay, so remember that. And that's my shameless plugging and salesman hat for the day. Joel and I are also going to be, just probably the last bit of information from me before we wrap up. Joel and I always have a lot of interesting conversations, and we've been talking about doing our own podcast and doing our own kind of chit-chatty kind of day at the pub type thing for a long time now, but we're definitely going to do it. And it's probably, Beyond Payments is probably a really good forum for that, where we talk about everything from society to finance to a lot of topics. So please join us. I think it'll be useful. I think it can be game changing as well. So please join us for that.
So many shameless plugs today.
Yeah, it's Friday. It's Friday.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. It's been really, really great having you here. And have a great weekend. Again, like and subscribe. That I cannot stress that enough.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Bye now.